wait for 5 more minutes?
Sir, we'll start within 2 minutes, sir. Sir, you can start, sir. You can start, no problem. You can start, sir. Mithran, sir, you can start.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
A very pleasant morning, Professor. It is my pleasure to welcome all the participants of this session 11 on the topic different parts used in 3D printer. I welcome the eminent speaker, Mr. Prem Kumar Kanasani, Senior Product Associate at 3Dexter Education Private Limited. It's my privilege to introduce our resource person, Mr. Prem Kumar. He has completed his BTech Mechanical Engineering in 2015 and joined Anurag Engineering College, and he have extensively researched, designed, developed and assembled various versions of 3D printer. He also worked on the firmware modification and upgradation of the printers. He has successfully implemented design and prototyping projects of various clients and small-scale manufacturing industries. He also helped many engineering students in developing their own DIY 3D printers. Once again, I warm welcoming you all for MCT Atal FDP on 3D printing and design. I hand over the session to our eminent guest. Thank you. Thank you all. Sir, it's over to you, sir. Mr. Prem, sir.
Uh, Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So can I turn on my camera?
Yes, sir, you can turn on, sir.
Good morning, everyone. This is Prem Kumar from Dexter Education Private Limited. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, it's audible. It's audible.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. This is Prem Kumar from Dexter Education Private Limited. I am working as a product design associate here from 3 years. So I have worked on developing 3D printers for 3 years in the company, from 200 mm build volume to 500 build volume recently. So today's our topic is different parts used in a 3D printer. So we'll just start our session. Hello, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, the screen is visible too.
Okay, thank you. Uh, so before starting to our presentation, before seeing what are the parts used in a 3D printer, we need to understand how what kind of types of mechanisms are there in a 3D printer. So we will see 2 or 3 basic kind of mechanisms, how they do printing. So once we know that, and then we can enter into the different parts used in those kind of mechanisms. So the parts will be same for all the different kinds of mechanisms, but still the arrangement will be different. So here, if you see, there are 3 different kinds of mechanisms. So one is Cartesian type. Here in the Cartesian type, the bed here moves back and forth. This bed, it is making y-axis movement. And here, if you see, this is the print head, which is actually printing the model on the build platform. So this is making this moves left to right on the carriage. So it is making x-axis movement from positive to negative. And then this entire carriage actually moves up as the print goes on. So it is making the z-axis movement. So if you want to identify what kind of a printer that you are using, you can simply by seeing the motor's arrangement. If you just move this bed, only one motor will be controlling this bed, and if you see this carriage, another motor will be moving this carriage using belts, and the entire carriage moves up and down by using 2 different motors. One is mounted on the dart end and one is mounted on this end of this end. And if you look at polar type of 3D printer, In that you have a circular build platform which is actually rotating, and there is one arm on which the hot end moves back and forth, which is making y-axis movement. And then this entire carriage also moves up in upward direction, making the z-axis movement. So this is a polar type of 3D printer. And the build volume will be of cylindrical shape because this x-axis build platform is rotating, so we can make cylindrical I mean the entire build volume that will be of cylindrical shape. If you look at in Cartesian type, this can be a cube or cuboid depending on the build size that you are going to choose. So next, if we talk about delta type, here if you see, here we have the arrangement of these vertical columns in a triangular shape. So that is why we call this a delta type machine. So on this machine, we have 3 sliders on each column mounted. These sliders will move up and down in combination with the other arms. So then these sliders are connected through arms to the hot end. And when these sliders move up and down, they will actually make the x and y and z axis movement on the build platform. So when all the motors together move up with the same amount of motion, then it makes a z axis movement. And for making x and y movements, then these motors need to be moving independently so that they can move to different locations on the build platform. So just like in polar 3D printer, the delta type printer is also having a cylindrical build volume, which means the entire build volume, the coordinates that it can trace is of cylindrical type. And these printers, these delta printers, are ideal for printing larger models in height compared to the XY area. We'll see these mechanisms in the next slides. So if you look at this mechanism, this is a Cartesian mechanism in which the build plate is moving back and forth, which is controlled by a single motor on the back side of the mechanism. So this build platform is moving back and forth. This is making the y-axis movement of the mechanism. And then, so this slider, this carriage part with the hot end, which is actually printing, which is having the nozzle and the hot end part, which is moving left to right, which is making x-axis movement. And then this entire carriage will move. Sorry. So this entire carriage moves up in Z direction as soon as the layer completes printing. So in this, if you look at this mechanism, which is using one motor for z-axis, y-axis, and there is another motor mounted on this side here, which is moving this hot end carriage left to right, which is only one motor that is moving another axis. And then this z-axis movement is made possible by using 2 different motors which are mounted behind this column here and here. So this entire mechanism, this carriage system will move upward direction once the paint layer is completed. So if you look at, if the complete mechanism is seen in the perspective, so this complete mechanism is open. Because it is open, it is not going to require many, lot of materials. Like it doesn't need a big frame to cover the entire thing. It can be made open, like everything, all the parts in the machine are completely visible. You can easily access if there is some problem with the machine. Maintaining this machine will be easy. Repairing the machine will be easy because everything is directly accessible. You don't need to open big parts in it. So even if you have a clog in the nozzle, you can just access it from here. And if you want to tighten the belts, you can directly do it from outside. And building this machine is a little bit easy. And because it requires less number of parts, you can completely avoid a big frame from this machine. So this will be cheaper compared to the other mechanisms that are used. And it uses this entire build, this build platform moves back and forth So it occupies a little bit more area than the actual size of the machine, because this build plate can move beyond this frame a little bit further than the frame. And here in this mechanism, individual motors are used to control each axis. Like for y-axis, one motor; for z-axis, there are two motors, but the axis is only one. And for x-axis, you have one motor only. So individual motors will be controlling each axis. And they all the Chinese printers which are for DIY, I mean self-assembly kits, these kind of machines are available in these kind of formats because they are easy to build. That was the reason. So this is another mechanism, the same one that we have talked, which is a delta mechanism. So if you look at these arms, how they are moving. So there are motors on the top of the mechanism. Actually, on each column there will be one motor. On this column, top of this column, there will be one motor. On top of this column, there will be another motor. And top of this column, there will be another motor. So each will be one. They will be connected with a GT2 belt. These sliders are moving with the help of this GT2 belt up and down. So as the print goes on, these three sliders will move up a little, one layer by one layer. So when it reaches the maximum point, it will complete the print. And if you look at this build platform, it is circular in shape. And if you look at the construction of the mechanism, this is actually using a V-slot rails. You can also use rods and bearings instead of this complete rails. So that kind of mechanism can also be possible. But the one that we are seeing here is using V-slot rails and some wheels over here to slide on the columns. And this kind of setup, the printer is delta type, but the kind of mechanism that we have used by using aluminum extrusions and these wheels, this is called open builds setup, open builds. And this printer, because it is actually carrying a very less amount of weight on this, there is not much weight on this. The one that we are seeing the bulky thing, that is simple adjust fan. There is no motor on this. The motor, the feeding motor, the motor which is feeding the material, which is mounted over here. So it is not actually carrying a lot of mass. So these kind of printers can actually print faster than compared to other kind of printers. The mechanism helps them in moving faster with less because it is having less moving mass. And the footprint of this complete machine will be lesser compared to other machines because it is having height, more height compared to the XY area. So in these kind of printers, you can print parts like which are having more height compared to the XY area. Kind of vast kind of models you can print, like glass or something like that. And these mechanisms, because it is also using less materials in terms of making constructional frames, so these are also cheap to buy. Even it is easy to build them also. And in the next slide, so here we have another mechanism, which is a core XY mechanism. The mechanism is different, but it is also a Cartesian printer only. It's like the one in the previous slide, we have seen a mechanism with a moving build platform, which is moving horizontally back and forth. So here, if you look at this machine, in this machine, we have the build platform, which is moving up and down, and the mechanism will not be moving up and down. It will be moving in X and Y orientation only. So here we have two motors in this mechanism, this one, and on this corner there are two motors. So these two motors in combination will move this mechanism either left to right or front and back. So in the previous mechanism where the bed is moving back and forth, there we have only one motor which is moving that build platform, which means only one motor is controlling the one axis. But here, if you see, Both motors in combination control this mechanism. So if both the pulleys, if both the motors are not working at same time, then the motion in X and Y is not possible. So they have to move in coordination with both the motors. So these mechanisms are completely available in box type of mechanisms. Like if you see, the previous mechanisms have do not have a box kind of setup. So these are better if you are making a completely closed printer, which is completely closed, or it might be having a front door, but it is completely closed from the three sides and the bottom also. So this mechanism is a little bit complex to build for a beginner. So that is, and the other thing, it is because it is having a lot more constructional parts, and you have to completely close it from the sides also. You need to spend more money on this kind of printers, and they are not that cheap also. But the parts that we are using in these three kind of printers are almost same. You can see the bearings, motors, pulleys, belts. These are the same for all the different kinds of printers. So now we are going into see what are the different parts used in a mechanism. So here we have divided these parts into different components. Like we have mechanical components which are responsible for moving the hot end, the nozzle on the build platform back and forth, and the bed also might be moving back and forth, or it may be moving up and down. So this is one mechanism. Motion mechanism is responsible for moving the hot end in X, Y, and Z direction. And there is another system which is extrusion system. Motion system is responsible for moving the hot end back and forth, X, Y, Z orientations. But the extrusion system is responsible for putting the material on the build plate. So this is also a completely different system. It is independent of these motion mechanisms. And the remaining things, these are electronic components. So we are not completely discussing, not deeply discussing these things, but we will see what are the different kind of electronic components that are required to build a 3D printer. So in this we have hardware and both software, but they both together work, perform to make the printing possible. So in motion system and extrusion system, here we have the XY carriage. So the motion system, for example, if you take X and Y carriage movements, we can use smooth rods and linear bearings, or V-slot extrusions and roller wheels that we have seen in a Delta type printer. So there are two options available for us. One is smooth rods and linear bearings. The other one is V-slot extrusions or roller wheels. You can choose any of these setup. And then the other kind of materials that we require: pulleys, motors, belts, nut and bolts, and these kind of things. These come into the while building a motion system, you need all these kind of mechanical parts. So here, if first we will see the smooth rods and linear bearings thing. So if you are going to build your mechanism or the printer by using these rods and linear bearings for XY axis movements, here the kind of rods that are available are, these are made of hardened steel, these shafts that are made. So they are available in different diameters, like 6 mm diameter, 8 mm diameter, 10 mm diameter, and 12 mm diameter. So if you are choosing an 8 mm diameter of rod, so you will be choosing an 8 mm bearing also. So here if you see this bearing, in the bearing, here the construction is also shown. So inside the bearing there are balls. They are arranged in a loop formation. So when the bearing moves on these rods, these balls actually recycle through this loop back and forth. So that makes the motion possible. And these linear bearings are designed for linear motion only. They can move back and forth on a rod, but not ideal for rotational motion on a rod. So there is a plastic arrangement inside the bearing to hold these balls in the proper slots. So if I am going to choose a 6 mm diameter rod, then I need to choose a 6 mm bearing. If you look at the nomenclature, this is LM, linear motion bearing, and this is 6 mm. It indicates 6 mm diameter of the bearing. And here, if you see, it is all, and this is same, but it is having L in this nomenclature. You see, extra L is there, which means the length of this bearing will be bigger. So the normal one, the LM6UU bearing, will be of 24 mm in length, but LM6LUU will be of around 40 mm, 40 or 45 mm it will be. So all are almost same. The length will be of length of these bearings which are having L on it. So they all will be of same length, like 45 mm at least. And these bearings which are having no L in this nomenclature, they will be of 24 mm, but they will be of different diameters, ranging from 6 to 12 mm. And here, if you see, there is one more bearing which is called flanged linear motion bearing. So the difference between this bearing and this bearing is only that this bearing has a flange underneath this bearing. This flange is attached at the end of the bearing. So this bearing, the one that we have seen first, this bearing moves horizontally. This is used in horizontal motions like in X and Y axis. And these kind of bearings are used for beds which are moving up and down. We have seen in 4XY mechanism, the bed will be moving up and down. So for that kind of mechanisms, we can fix these bearings on the bed. So it can we can easily assemble the bearing to the build platform, which will move up and down. And for these bearings also available in the same dimensions, like 8 mm, 10 mm, 12 mm. And if you are going to build a bigger build volume, the build platform, like if you are going for 300 mm build platform which moves up and down, for those kind of bigger mechanisms, you should be going for larger diameter, 12 mm diameter. And the same for the rods also, you are going to choose bigger rods if the bed is moving up and down. And if you are going to use this for only X and Y movement, like moving the bed, smaller beds, you can go for start from 8 mm diameter for a 200 mm build volume printer. And if you are going up like 300 and 400, for them you need to choose either 10 mm or 12 mm depending on the weight of your build platform. So here we are seeing an example of a machine which is made using linear rods and linear bearings. So if you look at these, so here we have one rod on this side and we have another rod vertically mounted on this side. So both are of 10 mm diameter, and we have here horizontal rods, two rods, and a 3D printed part in which there will be two bearings inside this 3D printer, 3D printed part. So you can look at the same mechanism here also. This the parts are removed here, so you can see it clearly. So on the bed also, beneath the bed also, we have two linear rods, 10 mm linear rods, and a platform which moves back and forth. And if you look at this portion, we have slots over here, 1, 2, and 3. On here there will be one slot. So in these slots, the bearings are fixed so that the build platform can easily, smoothly move on these linear rods back and forth. And you can also see a small motor over here connected with a belt. The belt will be attached to the build platform so that it will move back and forth. And if you look at this area, you have one motor over here, and it is connected with a belt to the X carriage which moves left to right. So when this motor turns, this slider will move left or right. And here on this side, along with these rods, we have a motor which is having a screw kind of rod on both ends. So these two motors are responsible for moving this carriage up or down, so that the z-axis movement is possible. And the entire thing, the remaining things which are like a part of a frame, like this is made of aluminum, and this complete frame is also made of metal only. So you can go for different kinds of metal or acrylic or dye bond, and MS also, mild steel also, or you can also make the same kind of mechanism using the aluminum extrusions also, which are available in different sizes. So the mechanism both are same. This one is using a kind of sheet metal, and this one is using aluminum extrusions to for building it. So this is the second one, open builds motion system. So either we can use linear motion bearings and rods, or we can use open builds motion system like the one that you see here. So here we have to build. This is a carriage which is having 4 wheels, and there is a one V-slot rail on which it easily slides on the system. So this is an example of how a carriage can be made so that it can move left on the rail very smoothly. And this is the V-slot extrusion. This is the V-slot extrusion, and this is wheel, V-shaped wheel. So if you look at the shape of this wheel, it is almost similar to this one. So when you are choosing these extrusions will be available in different cross sections and different shapes also. So you have to keep in mind that you need to only use these kind of V-slotted rails if you want to use these wheels on it. Else, if you are going to use extrusions which are not having this V shape, they are just straight, ending straight with straight edges. Then, if you use these wheels on that, uh, edges will damage the surface of this wheel. So it will be easily damaged, and the motion won't be that smooth. And then we have one more part. This is eccentric spacer. If you look at this thing, we have a simple plate. There are spacers to maintain the distance between this plate and the wheel. So these are cylindrical in shape. They do not have any specific shape. So in the bottom, if you look at, this is also a spacer, but which is having a hexagon shape. If you look at here, just like the eccentric spacer that we see here. So let us consider that you have made the mechanism and the complete mechanism is too loose. While you move it, it is vibrating, or it is too loose, or it is too tight. So then what you can do is, if you turn this nut, you can actually reduce or increase the distance between this top wheel and this bottom wheel. So if you look at the eccentric spacer also, the hole is also in a eccentric location, like it's not in the center of this spacer. So by turning this, you can actually adjust the distance, center distance between this wheel and this wheel. And one more advantage of this mechanism is it is easy to build, and it does not make any noise if it is properly, I mean, if you are not overused these things. So it does not make any noise compared to the linear motion bearings, because in linear motion bearings, all the parts that are in contact are metallic. So they will make a little bit noise, but this will not make that much noise if everything goes perfect. So this is an example of V-slotted rail mechanism. So if you look at this mechanism, the bottom frame is completely made of the same extrusions that they are using. And here, if you look at this plate, we have one wheel over here, another wheel over here, and another wheel on this side, like in triangle shape. So, and the second end also, we have the same kind of arrangement. There is one wheel over here, one wheel, another wheel over here, and there is another wheel here. So they are arranged in a triangle shape. So if there is anything loose or tight, they can easily adjust the eccentric wheel to adjust the tightness of this mechanism. And if you look at this complete structure, they have used V-slotted rails, and the same V-slotted rails are also responsible for, I mean, they are also making the complete frame and the motion mechanism also. So this is how you can actually save material on this kind of setups. So they have made the complete frame out of it and a motion mechanism out of the same extrusions that they are using. So this is how you can reduce cost on these kind of machines. So that is why these machines are available cheaper uh, in the market. Okay. Now we have in previous slides we have seen the mechanisms how they are actually built. So now we are actually entering into the different parts that are used in a 3D printer. So if you look at here, we have a GT2 motor pulley, this one. These are generally used in all kind of basic DIY CNC machines and 3D printers nowadays. So these are highly precise for these kind of motion mechanisms. So these GT2 belts are pulleys and belts are used because they are designed for linear motion mechanism systems. So if you see a linear motion mechanism system in which you have to move the sliders or the moving parts will be moving left and right, which means the pulley will be moving clockwise or anti-clockwise, and the belt will be connected over the pulley. So if when we are doing this reversal motions, so then there might be if you use another belts which are not made for motion mechanisms, there might be a slack in the belt or there might be a slippage in the belt because they are not designed for rotational motions. They are actually designed for same kind of motion. Like if the motor is spinning in clockwise direction, it will be spinning in clockwise direction for longer. It might be a speed faster or slower, but still there won't be much changes in the direction of the motion. Like if you see a 3D printer, in the 3D printer, you will be seeing the XY axis moving left and right. So there are many changes in the direction. So that is why these belts are suitable for linear motion mechanisms. So here, if you see, this one is having a 5 mm hole, which will be fixed on a motor. So generally, the motors that are used for 3D printer, they have a 5 mm shaft. So that is why we have a 5 mm or 6 mm hole in this pulley, and you have grub screws over here. This is a thread which is not having a grub screw right now. So there will be two screw holes for fixing grub screws on this side, and on this side also there will be one more grub screw. So you can easily fit it on a shaft, whether it is a small loose or tight. You can, if it is loose, then you can easily tighten it so that you can fix it on the shaft. So then GT2 belt. These GT2 belts are available in open loop and closed loop types also. If it means closed loop, and there will be a continuous belt which is not having any break points. And the one that is shown here is a open loop belt, which means it is not having a complete loop, which you can cut it anywhere and you can use the length that you need. So this pulley which is going to be fixed on a motor, which is known as a drive pulley, because which is transferring the motion or rotary motion from the motor to the different parts which need to be moving. So if you look at this is an idler pulley, which means idler means it is not going to transfer any torque to different locations. It is just an idler which just makes the rotation of the belt, the loop of the belt possible. Like I'll show you in the next mechanism. So where this pulley is exactly used. So one more thing, in these kind of pulleys, the pulleys are different. Like the same kind of pulleys are available, like 5 mm dia, but the number of teeth may be varying. Like they can start from 16 mm to 20 mm pulley, which means if you are going for a higher number of teeth, the diameter of the pulley is also increasing. And same is the case for idler pulley also. So you can get 12 mm teeth pulley, 16 mm teeth pulley, and then 20 mm teeth pulley. So it's better to choose both pulleys, like the drive pulley and this idler pulley, with the same number of teeth, so that you don't have a belt which is slightly bent or slightly curved somewhere else. And there is one more factor, that is the diameter of this pulley also. So the diameter is also available, like from 3 mm to 6, 7, 8 mm, like that. So there will be a bearing inside this pulley also. So that makes the easy to mount on any shaft, which can make so this bearing helps the pulley to smoothly rotate on a shaft or a pin. Okay, next we have lead screws and ball screws. Why these are used in a 3D printer? Because in the previous slides and GIFs that we have seen, the build platform will be either moving, the build platform or the nozzle completely will be moving up or down. So for X and Y axis motion, we are using belts, pulleys, and motors and bearings. These are helpful for moving the X and Y motion. But in Z axis, we will use these kind of lead screws. They are like a threaded screw only, but these lead screws are specifically made for linear motion systems. So they will have high precision and smooth operation, smooth operation. So these lead screws are also available in different diameters like 8 mm diameter, 10 mm diameter, 12 mm diameter. And these lead screws also have one more specification, that is lead. Lead means how much length. So over this lead screw we have a nut. So if we turn this lead screw 360 degrees, then if the lead of it will move 8 mm, which means it has an 8 mm lead. So if you rotate this threaded rod 360 degrees, then the nut will be moving 8 mm, which means 8 mm lead. If you are having 4 mm lead, so it moves only 4 mm when you turn it 360 degrees. So if you look at this thread, if a rod which is having 8 mm diameter and lead is also 8 mm, pitch might be 2. Pitch is different. So on some lead screws, what happens is they make the number of these threads. Like if you see, there is one thread starting over here and there is one more thread starting over here. So which means it has number of threads, different threads, independent threads on a single rod, so that each pitch will add up to the lead. Like here we have a 2 mm pitch, but we have lead 8 mm. When you talk about pitch, if you rotate the screw in 360 degrees, it will move only 2 mm if it is having a 2 mm pitch. But here we are saying that the lead is 8 mm, and I mean, when you rotate it 360 degrees, it is moving 8 mm, which means it is having extra threads over this shaft, like it is having 4 threads. So that is why these 4 threads are making the lead 8, which means this complete lead screw is a 4-start lead screw. So if you go for a 2-start lead screw, and if the pitch is 2, it will be making 4 mm lead. So the lead and pitch both are different. You need to consider these factors when you are going to buy a lead screw for your mechanism. Let us suppose that you are making a build platform which is moving up and down, in just like the Core XY that we have seen, a box type of printer where the build plate moves up and down. For these kind of setups, you should be using a lead screw which is having a bit lesser lead, like a 4 mm lead would be fine, because if you are having longer lead, it cannot bear lot much load. I mean, the build platform can easily slide down because of its longer lead. So for if you are increasing the weight of the bed, then you have to decrease the lead. You can keep the pitch 2 mm, but decrease the lead. Like take 4-start lead screw for your printer. If you 2-start lead screw for your printer, so that it will not drop down that easily. So this is a lead screw. The contact between this nut and this lead screw is completely metallic. There won't be any balls or anything like that. You just need to put some oil on the lead screw for operating smoothly. Now here we have another option, which is a ball screw. Ball screw means it is also similar, but the thread profile is different, which is having a curved thread profile. And here we have a nut. Inside this nut we have balls. So which means if we are using balls, the motion of this lead screw will be too smooth. So let's just compare these two. Here we have a direct metallic to metallic contact. Here we do not have any balls. So if you are going to increase the weight on these lead screws, which is increasing the pressure against these threads, and it also increases the friction, so it will easily wear off this nut, because this nut is made of brass and this threaded rod is made of hardened steel. So it can easily wear off and your threaded rod will be damaged very soon if you are using higher loads. But in case of this ball screw, we have balls, so the motion will be very smooth, and you can use loads also, higher loads than compared to these lead screws. So if you are making a bigger build volume printers, so we should be using ball screw like the one that we use in 400 and 500 machines. And if you compare the cost wise also, these are cheaper, these are too expensive. And ball screws are also available in different diameters, 12 mm, 16 mm, 20 mm diameters also. And the lengths will be, you need whenever you buy a ball screw, you have to tell the person exactly how much length of thread you need and how much length of the shaft portion that you need to connect it to the motor. Till now, do anyone have any doubts? Hello? Hello?
No, sir. No doubt. You continue,
Oh,
sir.
okay, thank you. So now we are coming to motors. So motors are responsible for transferring the motion. I mean, generating the motion in the mechanism, like XY motion, or it can be a Z-axis motion, or moving the extruder also. I mean, feeding the motor also. So we'll be using motors in the 3D printers. Do anyone know what kind of motors we use in a 3D printer? If you can write it in chat box, just please write it. Okay, fine. Someone has given answer. So right, we use stepper motors in 3D printers because, like if you see some kind different motors, like the one that we use in our fan or a cooler or an AC, these kind of motors are DC, or it can be AC also. But once you connect two wires, like positive and negative, if you supply current to those motors, what happens is they start rotating quickly. So you can't control the angle of rotation in a particular of the motor or the shaft. But if you look at the 3D printer, we need to control the angle of angle very precisely, so that we can move the hot end like very precisely for 0.2 mm, 0.3 mm, that kind of precise. So to move, I mean, to make this possible, the precise movement, we use stepper motors in 3D printer. So this is a stepper motor. Hello, is someone speaking? Hello, sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay. So here we can see one stepper motor. They are just different because they are one is having a connector type thing, like you can connect the wire over here, and the other motor is having a wire. That's the only basic difference between them. But both motors are same. So in a stepper motor, what happens is, I'll show you a small GIF here. So if you look at this GIF, you can see there are different poles which are having coils. And like for example, if you look at this stepper motor, which is having 4 wires, which means it is having two coils. 4 wires means 2 coils. One is going in and the other one is coming out. So that is one coil, and the other 2 are the same other independent coil. So here these poles are independently connected. Like there are 2 coils and 2 coils are connected. This one is one coil. Both these are connected with one coil. And if you look at this, these are connected with one coil, and these are connected with one coil. This is exactly not the same one, but a kind of similar. The mechanism is similar. So if you look at this, when the power is supplied to this coil, this is excited, and your rotor is exactly aligning with these two poles. And the angle that you look at here is the movement angle is 30 degrees. Whenever you supply current to one of the poles, it is making 30 degrees variation, 30 degrees angular displacement. So by varying the current supply in different poles with a different time interval, we can actually control the stepper motor angle at any given point of time. Unlike DC motors, when you supply current, they will be once the motor shaft starts rotating, you can't control the angle exactly precisely. You can stop it at some point of time, but not you can angularly you cannot control that. So if this is clear, and then we can see what kind. So for these stepper motors in 3D printers, basic DIY 3D printers, we will be using 1.9 degree of minimum step angle. So if we see here, the angle is 30 degrees because the number of poles are less. So if you look at these stepper motors, they will be having number of poles inside the this casing. So the number of minimum step angle decreases. If the number of these poles increases, the minimum step angle that the shaft can rotate increases. So here, if you look at this, the basic thing motors that we use for 3D printers is 1.9 degree step angle, which means you can control the step angle of the motor very precisely to a degree of 1.9 degrees. This is the minimum mechanical one that you can actually achieve with the mechanical arrangement of this stepper motor. And the same stepper motors will be available in 0.9 degree step angle also. They are more precise. I mean, you can control a lot of these motors. So if you increase the minimum step angle, if you decrease the minimum step angle, the precision of your 3D printer increases. If you go on larger step angles, then you can't control your 3D printer very precisely. So the torque ranging will be from 4.2 kg centimeter for these kind of larger things. Like you can use smaller stepper motors also, which will be small in height wise. They will be smaller, but the dimension, this faceplate dimensions will be same. And the type of these stepper motors is NEMA 17. NEMA 17 is the standard. So all the NEMA 17 motors, which might be a bigger in height or smaller in height, will be having the same face width and same the location of the bolts also similar, and the shaft diameter is also similar. So NEMA 17 is the motors that we use in 3D printers, almost all the 3D printers. But if you are going to make bigger printers which are having more build volume, like 600 mm build volume in length or width, so for those kind of mechanisms, you can go up, you can go for bigger motors, like NEMA 23 is also available, which is a more bigger than this motor. But for normal 3D printers, DIY 3D printers, or simple professional 3D printers, till 300 mm build volume, they generally use these kind of motors only. Even if you go for 500 mm build size also, you can go for a bigger motor. The same NEMA 17 face width will be same, but height of the motor will increase, which means the torque of the motor also increases and power consumption also increases. So if we are going for a 1.9 degree step angle, minimum step angle, we have we can to rotate this this through shaft through 360 degrees, we have to rotate in 200 independent steps. So the rotation of the shaft will be in steps wise. It's not continuous rotation. There will be a very little gap between each step when it is moving. So you can move it 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, like that. So it will stop once it moves to that position, and it will be locked. It kind of breaks. It will lock in that position. So compared to if you look at the DC motor, it is not that easy to lock the motor. Like it will not either move in clockwise or anti-clockwise. It will stop there once you lock the motor. So because in these motors, if you look at this, these you have to independently control the current in each coil. So In DC motor, you can just switch off the fan, it will start running. You can just start supply, it will start running. But in stepper motors, you have to control the current in each individual coils periodic one by one. Only then the complete rotation of the shaft will be possible. If we just supply power to one or two of these coils at the same time, it will lock itself. It will not move any further. So for performing these kind of operations like controlling the current in these independent coils, we need to use stepper drivers. These stepper drivers will actually do that complex task of controlling the stepper motors. So in 3D printers, we have these basic stepper drivers. We have multiple models in these, but the basic things that stepper drivers that we use for DIY printers and small 3D printers, these are the two different kinds of stepper drivers. So one is A4988, which is having the number of pins on both the stepper drivers are same, and they can be fixed in the same kind of stepper motor sockets on a control board. But there will be a difference, like if this one if in 3D printer motherboard, if this one fits in one orientation, this one fits in exactly opposite to the orientation of this one. I mean, the way you fit it on a control board will be different. They will be like one will be going straight and the other one will be going in reverse orientation. The orientation will be different, but everything will be same. And it has some other different specifications also. So in the stepper motor, previous slide we have seen, if you look at here, the total number of steps are 200 steps. It has mechanical steps because of its construction, the way it is designed. It has 200 steps with 1.9 degree minimum angle. But if you use a stepper driver, you can actually control the stepper driver. I mean, you can actually use it to operate the stepper motor, and also it also helps you in micro stepping also. What is micro stepping? In the same previous slide, if you actually control the way you send current to both these coils, you can actually stop this arm in the center also, in this area also. So which means you're actually decreasing the step angle, which is having this step angle is 30 degrees, but still we can control this in between these two poles also, which means that is micro stepping. Micro stepping means reducing the minimum step angle of the motor by using electronic method, by using these stepper drivers. So now we have 200 steps of the motor, but what the stepper drivers do is they can actually precisely control these one at least. So in 200 steps, if you take one step of the motor, you can actually divide that step into these many, like 1/16 max. A4988 stepper driver can actually control single step by using with a precision of 1/16 steps. Like it is dividing that single step into 16 independent different steps. So that is how accurately these kind of stepper drivers control motor. So that is why the precision that we get in 3D printing is possible. And the other kind of specs that these stepper drivers have is the maximum voltage that these stepper driver can handle is 35 volts, and minimum voltage is 8 volts, and the maximum current is 2 amperes. If you go above 1 ampere current in the motor, the stepper driver starts heating a little bit. So to cool down that, we have a cooling heat sink. So if you stick this over this IC, you can actually reduce the heating of this stepper driver, or else you can use a small fan on your control board to cool down these stepper drivers. Now we have another stepper driver. This is DRV8825, which is having a maximum voltage of 45 volts, minimum voltage of 8.2 volts, maximum current of 2.5 amperes. It is a little bit more than its predecessor. But if you look at the resolution of steps, it can actually reduce the number of steps of a motor into 32 steps. Here, this stepper driver is reducing it on to improving the steps into by 16. You can actually make one step into 16 independent steps, but here you can make it to 32 independent steps, which means the micro stepping is doubled in these kind of stepper drivers. So which also means your printing accuracy will also improve. But these stepper drivers generally heat a lot because their maximum current is also, you can see the difference, 2.5 amperes. So you have to use heatsink, and it's better to use a cooling fan for these kind of stepper motors. So now we have couplings. So why do we use couplings in a 3D printer?
Actually,
Because
sir, in a motor, the total step is 200, and that is each is 1.9 degree.
I didn't get you. I didn't get you. Can you repeat?
Sir, in a total step 200,
Mm-hmm.
and each is 1.9 degree. If we
Yeah, yeah.
if we need to multiply 200 with 1.9 degree, that is become 380 degree. So
Wait.
exactly what does the step mean?
The step actually means, we'll see it in this slide. See, now here we have these poles over here, right?
Yes, sir.
Which are controlled by using a coil,
Okay.
right? They are independent coils. If you look at these opposite coils, they are opposite poles. They are controlled by using a single coil.
Okay.
So if you want, like if you see in DC motor, once you start, it continuously starts rotating, right? It will not stop at a particular angle if you want. Like if
Yes.
you want to stop it exactly 30 degrees, it will not stop, because once it starts, it continuously rotates, because the coil that you use is only one coil.
Okay.
Or if you look at this, it has independent coils. So if you properly adjust the current in these coils, you can actually move one step at a time, because this arms always tries to align with the these poles which are activated, right?
Okay.
Whenever the power is applied to these poles, it is aligning with with these arms only. So in what does a micro? This is the minimum step. Like from here to here, it is taking 30 degrees. That is the minimum step that it can take. So
Okay.
if you want to increase that step, that you need, you have to really control the side poles also. So then you can actually make this arm stop in between these poles also. Got it?
Okay. Okay, sir.
So
Okay,
that
sir.
is micro stepping. This will be done by stepper driver.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, so here we have coupling. I guess here in this slide it is 1.9. Actually, it is not 1.9. It is 1.8. This is the mistake with inaccuracy. So here we have 0.9 is available, but not 1.9. It is 1.8. I guess the one who asked this question, I think this is clarified. So it is 1.8.
Okay, nice, sir. Thank you, sir.
So now we have couplings. So the reason why we use couplings is to join either shafts or lead screw to the motor. Like in previous mechanisms that we have seen, there will be two motors behind the machine which are connected with a lead screw. So if you look at the shaft of the motor, which is having 5 mm diameter, but the lead screw that you will be using 8 mm or some other, so that is a separate rod that you are externally using. So to join that with the motor, we use flexible couplings. So why we can use a simple cylindrical kind of coupling also, but why we use flexible coupling is because when you assemble motor and lead screw and all the parts together, still you can have a small misalignment between the motor shaft and the lead screw. So if there is if you use a complete solid coupling, a cylindrical coupling, what happens is when you have misalignment in the shafts, you can't move, the shaft will be binding in between, like it will not move smoothly. It will stop rotating once the misalignment is too much. But in flexible coupling, what happens is the bottom portion, this portion and this portion, they can actually flex a little bit. You can move them. Even if there is, if you hold the rod a little bit bent, still the motor can rotate it for a certain degree of angle. It cannot bear too much misalignment, but still it can maintain a little bit, allow a little bit misalignment in the motor. Can you, is my video playing? So here if you see, this is flexible coupling. So this is, I think the bending, I don't know whether it is visible or not. You can actually move, bend it a little bit. So even while it is bending, so this is how the lead screw is fixed on a coupling. So once you connect it to the motor, this area and this rod can actually flex a little bit like this. The bottom will be connected to the motor, but this area can actually flex it like this, and you can also see this. So if you look at this, this is actually flexing. So even if you have a problem with your alignment also, very small alignment also, still you can actually move it like this. You can allow a small misalignment in the shaft. So I think that was visible. I'm not sure if someone can clarify that. Okay. So this one is one kind of flexible coupling. So here the 5x8, 5x8 means the diameters, the top diameter, if you look at this, the one that is connected to the shaft, which is 5 mm, and the other end is having 8 mm diameter. So the smaller diameter which is going to the motor shaft, and the other end that is going to be connected to the lead screw. So here also we have another coupling, which is spider coupling, which is having separate parts like this upper part, this lower part, and there will be a small plastic part in between this. So this is also doing the same kind of function, not much difference. But what happens in this kind of flexible coupling, if sometimes if you like something happens mechanically on your machine, this can actually flex a lot. I mean, this can actually come out. I mean, I can't do it. So the length of this spring will increase a lot, and it will not be performing the same function that will be that it is performing before. If it is damaged, it is easy to damage. But if you look at this spider coupling, there is even if the complete shafts are separated, still there is nothing that much to damage. But this one can easily damage once it loses the distance between these coils increases. It will be damaged, and it won't be doing the same kind of with the same kind of precision that it will be doing. So now coming to limit switches. So now we know that your 3D printer axis can move X, Y, and in Z directions. But how does a 3D printer knows where the X or Y axis has to stop? So it needs some kind of sensor or some kind of arrangement to tell the controller board that it has reached its maximum limits, that it should not be move beyond the arms. Like so, these are kind of sensors that tell the controller board that the motors or the axis has reached its either minimum position or the maximum position. So here we have two different kind of limit switches. One is mechanical type. Here, if the carriage is moving horizontally, like back and forth or left to right, the carriage has to hit this limit switch so that it will send a signal to the motherboard. Then the motherboard will stop the motor. So this is a mechanical kind of thing, like you can see, I think the one I'm holding here. So it is kind of switch, mechanical switch. So this is soldered onto a PCB so that it can be easily fixed on 3D printers. So this is a basically limit switch. It has three terminals on it for different configurations that will be discussed in the next session by Shubham. So this is a mechanical kind of switch, and the other one that you see here is an optical switch. Optical switch means you don't need to directly touch it. You have to the part. I'll show you in next GIF. You can easily see that. So I'll show you that. If you look at here, the carriage is moving from right to left, and it has a small part over here. This part, this part is entering into the small slot here. If you look at this slot, that part is entering into this slot. It is not directly coming in contact, but it is actually entering into this slot. So in the slot, we have here an IR LED and the receiver on this end. So they both are emitting light. One is emitting light, the other one is receiving the light. So if you block the light by putting something in between this slot, it knows that there is something that something has come in between the sensor. So here the same thing is happening. So this one is moving from top to down, and this one is moving left to right to left. So once it comes, this sheet metal part is coming into this slot, it is detecting that the part has reached its maximum minimum position. And you can also fix this kind of limit switch on the top of the printer also, so that it also knows maximum position of the printer also. So it will not hit anything. It will not collide with any other parts. So for a 3D printer, you can just use one minimum limit switch, and you can use other software in-stops that are in firmware that in next session you will see. So once it knows its minimum position, 0 position, if you define that proper in software, if you define the length of the arm movement, length of this carriage movement, like if you say that it is 200 mm, it can only move 200 mm. Then once it starts from hitting this part, it now knows that this is the 0, and it will move 200 mm in this x direction. It will not go beyond 200 mm if you properly configure your software. So once, if you give any values that are above 200 mm, it will not take the values, it will not move in that direction. So in positive direction, it will not go to any maximum, but in negative direction, it can reach till this limit switch only. So now we have another important part. So till now we have seen different kind of parts that are responsible for motion mechanism, and the parts that are responsible for sensing what is moving and what is not moving, kind of that kind of thing, mechanical parts and all this. So now we are looking at a different mechanism, which is an extrusion mechanism. It will be starting from here. So in an extrusion mechanism, what happens is the material will be fed by a motor to the hot end. Hot end is the area where your filament melts in this area. So this is the complete arrangement assembly of this hot end. It is a E3D type hot end made by E3D company. So in the hot end, we have multiple regions here. So this one is heat sink. Heat sink, which means by name, it means the part which is used to cool the other parts, like these parts. These parts are connected to this heat sink. And here we have one fan. So on the heat sink, this fan will be blowing air so that it will lose some heat. So this is a pneumatic connector which is used to connect a pipe. A pipe, I mean a filament guiding pipe. So through the pipe, the filament enters into the heatsink, and after heatsink, there will be throat. Here we can see 3 kinds of different throats. One is having a 4.1 mm diameter, which means the inner dia is too big, so that this entire pipe, the pipe that we connect from this pneumatic connector, that pipe can enter from here to the bottom of to the other end of this throat. This is one type of PTFE lined throat, and this one is another Teflon throat, which is using a PTFE pipe inside the throat. If you look at both of these, in this, the main pipe that we are using from top to bottom, which is going into the throat, but in this, this PTFE tube, which is a very thinner one, which is having around 2 mm diameter inner dia, which is inserted from the bottom side, and from the top, the pipe can enter till this area. So the main pipe that is coming from the top, like the one that is guiding the filament, that will stop here, and there will be some track inside here, and from the track it will enter into the throat. So you can use or any of these throats. If you look at this throat, these two PTFE line throats, this throat and this throat, these can be used for printing PLA, which are materials that are going to melt below 260 degrees centigrade, because this Teflon tube will start degrading after 260 degrees centigrade. So you cannot go beyond that temperatures if you use these kind of throats. And there is one more throat, which is all metal throat, which means this complete part is a metal and you can't put any Teflon lining inside it. It is completely metal only, and it the diameter will be around 1.75 to 2 mm. But there is one issue with these kind of throats. What happens is, once you assemble, if you look at this area, the nozzle is fixed here, and the red color part that we are seeing here is a heater, the same one that you see here. This is the heater, which is having red color wire. Sorry. Which is having a red color wire. So here you can see a small thermistor bulb, which is used to sense the temperature in this region. So this heater heats up this complete block. You can see this thermistor, if it is visible, I'm not sure. So this is the thermistor, and this is the complete hot end set, the same one that you are seeing in the picture. So if you disassemble them, you can see the parts, different parts. I'll just show you that. So this is the area where the complete block is heating, and the nozzle is also getting heated to 200 degrees centigrade, whatever the temperature that you set in your printer. And the sensor is placed inside this cube. There will be a small hole. You can see the small hole over here. So inside this hole, the thermistor will be put. So a heater is heating from here, and the thermistor will be sensing the temperature from this portion. So this is the heat sink, which is having a pneumatic connector. You can actually remove it by turning it. And once you fix it, you can fix the pipe. This is the guide pipe. From this, you have to feed your filament into the heat sink like this. So if I completely insert without, there is no throat over here now. If I completely insert it like this, the pipe is coming out, right? So which means the diameter is bigger from here. So this is the heater cube. This is the heater cube. This is the throat, which is having a thread, and inside this throat we have a PTFE, the one that we can see over here. This is a Teflon throated PTFE throat. So this is the nozzles, 0.4 mm diameter nozzle. So the nozzle diameters can be varying from 0.2 to max 1.2 mm. So, and the material of the nozzle also different. The one that here you are seeing, you're looking at, is a brass. So this is ideal for printing PLA, ABS, and these kind of materials. They are not that abrasive, so you can easily use this kind of nozzles. If you are going to use different materials which are having metallic parts in it, or some kind of abrasive, like if you look at carbon fiber or wood fill materials or metal fill materials. Metal fill materials are those materials which are having very small metallic parts inside the filament. The filament is same, plastic only, but there will be small metallic parts, so that you can get a metallic finish after printing your parts. So for those kind of materials, abrasive materials, you have to use a different nozzles, which is made of hardened steel. So this is not suitable for abrasive kind of materials. This is suitable for simple materials which are not having any abrasive parts inside it, like wood particles or metallic particles or any other kind of extra particles. So I think this one is completely covered. I don't think that any part is missed over here. So we have a small fan over here and a small duct also, which is guiding the fan air towards the heatsink. So even in this hot ends also there will be two different kinds of hot ends. One where you can actually put the filament pipe into the hot end, and there is another kind of hot end where the top diameter will be very small. This diameter will be equal to the diameter of the pipe. Here we have some bigger hole to connect a pneumatic connector, this black pneumatic this connector. But if you take another kind of heatsink, the diameter of this hole will be very small. So direct you won't be putting any connector over here. So I think we can discuss that in the next slide that we are going to see. So in the extrusion system, in previous slide we have seen hot end. Hot end is used to melt your filament and then extrude it through the nozzle. So the complete what the hot end is doing is only it is heating the your material and it is putting throughout. So one point I have missed here is when you heat your filament filament must be hot in this region only, like this region. It should be hot in this region only. It should not be hot on this region. For that purpose, to make it cool on this region, we are using heat sink. So when you are putting the filament into the hot end, here it will be heating. It will be completely, this area will be completely cold. So that is why we call this side cold end, this side hot end. This is the hot region. So let us suppose if your fan is not running and your heatsink is not losing that much heat, which means it will be completely hot. And if you put your filament through this hot end, what happens is due to the increasing temperature, your filament diameter will increase in this area and it will jam inside this hot end. So you have to make sure that your fan is running all the time and this area should be cold. If it is heating, which means your filament is going to stuck inside this hot end due to increasing diameter. It should only heat in this area. So now, okay. Someone is asking a question. Yeah, someone is asking a question that does the parts used in 3D printing depends on the type of material of the object being printing? Yeah, very parts. It's like the temperature of the nozzle. Like if you look at the one that we hot end that we have seen, which can actually safely go to 280 degrees to 300 degrees centigrade. So if you are going to print material which is too hot, which melts at a higher temperatures, like beyond 300 degrees centigrade. So then you have to change this hot end and you have to use some other kind of hot ends so that you can melt those kind of materials also. Like if you go for carbon polycarbonate, which melts around 280 degrees. There are other versions of polycarbonate which will melt beyond 280. So for those kind of materials which melt at higher temperatures, you have to choose a different hot end. So this is a part which has to be changed. And for the same question, and there is another extension also in the here, so that I will cover in the later part in the other section. So one is this hot end. Another thing, extrusion mechanism. That one I will be covering this in this slide. So here we have hot end. Is it audible now? I mean, someone is saying that my voice is breaking.
Yes, sir. No issue, sir.
Okay, okay, sir. So I'll be addressing the questions in between one by one. So in the extrusion system, we have hot end that we have seen in the previous slide, and we have a feeder system also, which is actually feeding the filament into the hot end. So there are two different kinds of mechanisms in this extrusion system also. One is a type where Bowden type. This is where you are actually separating this motor, the feeding mechanism, from the hot end, which means you are setting up this feeder mechanism somewhere else, which is actually not moving, which is stationary, which is like fixed in some fixed position, and a pipe will be used to send this feeding material into the hot end. So why do we use this kind of mechanisms is because if you separate this complete motor from the mechanism, this hot end will be fixed on the mechanism which is moving in X and Y directions. If you just separate this extrusion mechanism and fix it somewhere else and connect it with the pipe, what happens is you are actually reducing the weight on the mechanism. If you separate this motor from the hot end, you are actually reducing the weight, which results in improvement in your print quality, reduces the noise in your print in your machine, and it also improves vibrations also. It decreases the vibrations in the prints. So this is the benefit of an Bowden type. So Bowden type means you must be having a separate pipe in between the hot end and your extruder, and your extruder is not moving. It will be rotating in a fixed position, but it will not be moving with the axis. So there is another mechanism, direct drive extruder. So in the direct drive extruder, your motor, this feeding motor is exactly mounted just above the hot end, which means there is no pipe, and this complete mechanism, this complete setup will be fitted onto the mechanism, your moving XY axis system. So which means the complete motor will be moving along with the your XY carriage. So here you can see an extrude feeder, like it has a lever. So from the bottom side, if you directly mount this on on your X-axis system, X and Y-axis motion system, which will be moving along with the axis. So it will be around 250 grams of weight, and you are increasing the weight if you directly use this. But if you separate it with a pipe, yeah, if you mount this somewhere, if you mount this somewhere else and use the hot end on the mechanism like this, you are decreasing the weight. But if you are mounting this this feeder exactly above your hot end, which is increasing the weight, which means you might be facing issues with the vibrations, noise, if you are not building the machine properly, if you are using weak parts. And it also causes your parts to get loose because of higher mass movements. And in the just an extension to the previous question someone asked about the materials. See, there are some flexible materials that can be printed, like you can the materials will be rubbery. Like if you look at PLA, which is like a which is not that flexible. It is having see, this is you can actually flex it like this, but it is not a spring type of thing. It is solid. So this kind of materials can be easily printed on a Bowden type. But if in look at direct drive extruder, it can print this kind of materials, and also flexible materials which are rubbery, which feel rubbery after printing, like TPU materials. So for those kind of materials, direct drive extruder is suitable. So this is the material TPU. It is too flexible compared to the previous one, and you can actually, it is breaking. Yeah, this one is flexible material. So once you print your model, it will look like a rubbery model, like a sponge. So to print those kind of materials, you need to use a direct drive extruder. So I have a question. Can anyone identify what kind of extrusion system is this? We have discussed two types, right, in the previous slide. So what kind of extrusion system this can be?
Direct drive.
Yes, it is direct drive because your hot end is directly mounted along with the feeder system also. So in this kind of setup, you can easily print flexible systems, and your stepper driver is connected, and this entire system has to be moving with your X and Y axis. So if possible, I will be showing you the Bowden system also through a video later. Next, we have heat beds. So when you print your 3D prints, what happens is the first layer that you print is hot, and the next layer, if you keep on printing, you have bottom layer which is going to completely cool, and in top layers which is hot. If I have started to print this model, if I look at like if I am printing at this height, this particular height, if you compare the temperature in this region the bottom layers will be completely cold and the top layers will be hot. So which causes warping. Warping means the bottom surface layers will be curling towards up. So which will easily shift from your bed, or it will fall down very easily because it loses its stickiness on the build plate. So inside, basically, if you are not using any kind of adhesive or some kind of heating mechanisms to reduce the temperature difference, the warping is happening. Warping means the bending of this bottom layers is happening only because of the temperature difference between the bottom layers and top layers, right? So what we have to do is we have to improve the build adhesion by increasing the by some kind of method. So one technique is that you heat your bottom surface. So your bottom surface will be hot and it will not allow this surface to these layers to bend towards up. So for that purpose, we use heat beds in 3D printers. So if you are going to print a PLA material that is not warp prone, so you can print it without heated bed also, but you need to use proper Fevistick or painter's tape or something like that to stick your initial layer of the print. But if you are going to paint different materials like ABS is too much warp prone. Like once you start printing, no, if without a heated bed, if you start printing, it will definitely warp. So for those kind of materials, if you are planning to print those kind of materials in your 3D printer, you must be having a heated bed. So if you look at this heated bed, we have two different kinds here. There is one more kind also. I'll tell you about that too. So the one that we are seeing here is an aluminum heated bed, which is made of this complete thing. The black thing is completely aluminum. Yeah. So you can see there are some traces, PCB traces, copper traces over here on the bottom surface of this heated bed. So which is completely etched over this aluminum plate. So once you supply current to your heated bed through these terminals, this complete thing will be heating up. Just like a bulb, if you supply current to your filament, it will start heating and glowing. To look at the incandescent bulbs. The same way, the same kind of resistive mechanism is made. So once you supply current to this heated build plate, it will start heating. You are going to heat this build plate, but you must be having a mechanism to sense what is the temperature of that build plate once you start supplying power. So for that purpose, we are using the same thermistor that I have shown you that we have used in the hot end. The same kind of thermistor will be pasted over here by using this Kapton tape and this foam or some kind of fiber material. So the thermistor is placed over here, and the thermistor will be sensing the temperature of this heated bed once the heating is started. So heated beds are available in two voltages. Basically, one is 12 volts and 24 volts. The one that you are seeing here is a 24-volt heated bed. So if you are going for higher voltages, which means like if you compare 12 volt and 24 volt, 24 volt will heat very quickly if you are using a proper power supply. If you are using complete voltage system 24 volts, then it heats up very quickly compared to the 12 volt heated bed. And here we have another another heated bed which is made of completely PCB. You can look at this. Is it visible? Yeah. This is a heated bed, the one that you are actually seeing in the photo. So this is made of a PCB material only. And on the bottom surface of this fiberglass material, we have the same kind of this traces, and the same kind of thermistor is also pasted underneath this heated plate. So here also we have for the if you look at this heated bed, we have a small box printed over here. There you can actually see there is 12 volts and 24 volts mentioned. So here the terminals are also 3 terminals are there. One terminal is this number 1. Here it is written number 2. Here it is written number 3. So we have 3 terminals. So by depending on the kind of voltage system that you are using, either 12 volts or 24 volts, you have to make the connections to use it for 12 volt or 24 volts, which means it can be used for both 12 volts and 24 volt systems. But you have to make sure that you connect it properly for the voltage system that you are going to use. Okay. So now another part of your 3D printer will be a power supply unit. So the basic function of your power supply unit is the basic function of your power supply unit is to give supply to your control board. So the voltage system that we use in our homes is 120 volts AC, 220 volt AC system. It can be from so these SMPS are available for 120 to 220 volts AC input. So once you give input AC to this system, it will give you output in DC form, which is a lower voltage. You are giving 220 volts, let us suppose AC input. The output will be in DC, and it will be a regulated 12 volts, which is safer for these kind of electronic applications. Or it can be 24 volts depending on the type of SMPS you buy. So these SMPS comes in different size and different forms. They will be having some will be having a fan, or some might not be having a fan, depending on the kind of loads that it can handle. So if you look at this 12 volt SMPS, this will be available for different loads. Like the current that it can handle is either 15 amperes, 10 amperes, 20 amperes, like that. It will go on. So the how you choose your SMPS depends on what kind of things that you have put into your machine. Like if you are using a heated bed and hot ends and motors, all these, you have to calculate how much load that you are going to put on your SMPS. So same once you calculate that, then you will know how much current you have to you need from your SMPS. So then you can easily choose what kind of SMPS you need. Either a 12 volt 10 ampere one, or a 12 volt 30 ampere one, or 24 volt 10 ampere, like that. So if you go for 24 volt system, your heaters, like hot end heaters, you might be having a single heater, or you might be having a dual hot ends, multiple hot ends. So you will be having multiple heaters and heated belts. It can be a smaller one, or it can be a bigger heated belt. So depending on the kind of consumption that you need, you are requiring, your 3D printer requires, you need to choose this SMPS properly. But if you go for 24, it will heat up everything very quickly. You don't need to wait for too longer. If you go for 12 volt, your heated bed might take a little longer to heat. And the kind of the voltage system, like 12 volt or 24 volt, this also depends on the kind of controller board that you choose also. Like if you look at this control board is also a part of your 3D printer, which actually handles all kind of different calculation part, or like user interface part, like LCD controlling and stepper motor control. All these things will be done with the help of this control board. So here we have a microcontroller board, which is Arduino Atmega 2560, and this is a RAMS board. So actually the complete calculation part and information part will be done with the help of this Arduino. And on the above this board, you have to install this. Just you can see there are many number of slots that are available. So you just need to assemble this onto the top of this board. So if you are not using this, it is very difficult for you to connect all the motors and pins and your LCD connections. All these things are very difficult to put on this Arduino. So that is why, to make it easy, we have a RAMS board, which on which you can actually put all the stepper drivers that are required. You can connect the motors over here. You can connect the LCD on this. So all these things will be discussed in the next session by Shubham. So he will go very deep into these things. So if anyone has any questions, you can please ask me. Someone is asking a question that can your machine can we make a machine for printing of automobile piston aluminum alloy material? Yeah, we can make, but the that kind of printers are different. They are metal 3D printers, like they can print metals. The printers that we are now discussing is FDM, which is fused deposition modeling, which means you can print plastics in this kind of printers. The reason why we can only print plastics is the kind of materials that we use are in wire form, and the other thing that we use plastics because the temperature or handling temperatures of these printers is low, like around max 500 degrees centigrade you can go in these machines. So that is why it is only suitable for plastics. For aluminum, as it is metal, you have to go for SLA and different other kind of machines. Does anyone have doubts anymore?
Sir, in aluminum hotbed,
Mhm.
there is one sellotape will be there. So
Yeah.
due to hot, it cannot be melt.
No, that is actually not cello tape. That is Kapton tape. So it will not lose its adhesiveness even if the temperature goes up. So that is safe for your applications like these kind of applications, higher temperature applications. So
Sir,
that is
pardon, what's the name of this? Captain.
Kapton tape. Yes, you can
Okay,
just
sir.
Google it. The color will be same all the time.
Okay.
Okay. And it
Okay.
will be a
Thank you,
bit
sir.
expensive, and it is only used for these kind of applications where you have to stick it on some higher temperature materials.
Okay. Nice, sir. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
you're welcome. And any other questions? Mm. Okay, if no one is having any doubts, then we can end the session. So someone is
Sir,
like,
question is written in
Same, sir,
chat
in
box.
okay,
chat box.
which controller board is best? This one in next session, Shubham will be discussing. And sir, can you explain 3D printer with Raspberry Pi and this SKR 1.4? So Shubham will be handling this because it is completely different topic, and he'll be taking care of all these things. And one and a few more points that I have missed, I have to discuss them also. Like once you have your electronic parts, you have all the mechanical parts, electronic parts, and everything. The last part is software. So in the software, you will be using either Marlin or there are different kind of open source softwares which are available. You don't need to do some coding onto it. What you need to do is you will be having a configuration file. It's kind of text file where there will be number of features of a 3D printing machine will be defined, like how much temperature that you are going to use, what is the build size of your printer, and what is the speed at which you are going to run your printer, or the number type of stepper driver that you are using. So these will be mentioned in the firmware file. So you have to either you have to select by commenting lines. So that will also be shown in the next session. So you need to keep in mind that you have to put all these values into your firmware, like the number of steps that you need to move your motor also. We have just discussed that micro stepping and stepping also. So once you start your machine, once you building your machine, you will be starting your machine. I mean, you will be turning it on and you will be moving your axis by going through a UI configuration. So now there is one thing that how does your controller board knows, I mean, how much the motor has to move your x and y axis in with a certain displacement. Like if you want to move 10 mm, how many number of steps the motor has to take. So these kind of values you have to put into the firmware so that the firmware knows how much you need. Like in the G code, you might be seeing that G code may be telling the hot end to move to 10 mm distance. So the controller will be doing that calculations because it knows the number of steps that it requires to take for 1 mm. So you have to define that value. Only then the controller will know and do the same thing. Because the controller may not be knowing what is the kind of pulley that you have used, what is the diameter, not all these things. So if you I have shown you GT2 pulley in our slides. So if you are going to choose number of steps for your 3D printer, that also depends on the stepper driver also, and what kind of stepper driver that you are using, and also the stepper. If you are confused with choosing how many number of steps you have to start the machine before testing, so you can Google it. What kind of pulleys that you have used, it depends on that. So you can easily find it in Google also. So basically, I would suggest if you are going for X and Y axis motion, you just start with 80 steps. If you are using the full step configuration in your stepper driver, okay, and the full step configuration, 16 step configuration in your stepper driver, and that 16 step configuration or 32 step configuration will also be discussed by Shubham if he has time. Okay, I think if that's what.
Prem sir, there is some question in chat box.
I'm looking. So basically, someone is having what kind of file format that we can handle. Well, whatever the CAD file format that you have, you can convert it into STL and use it. And there are different other formats also that are handled by slicer softwares like AMF files, AMF and DAE, and one STL. These kind of it depends on the kind of slicer software also. If you are using Cura, then it can handle many of the formats, and there are other slicers which can handle some other kind of formats also. But generally STLs are used because all the CAD softwares will be having that STL kind of STL file format, output format. Is RAMS 1.4 compatible for remote operation? Yeah, it is compatible. You need to use extra, like you need to use either Wi-Fi or an extra Raspberry Pi, and you have to add it. But on it has no option for that. You have to add extra things. Okay, I think the questions are also over. So can we end the session, sir?
Yes sir. Gopinath sir, are you there?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir. Good morning to all and all. First of all, I would like to extend my greetings to guest speaker and one and all present here. It was a good session on various parts of 3D printing and the mechanisms, the 3D printing process. It was a good commendable session, sir. With this note, I would like to thank Mr. Prem Kumar, the guest speaker, for his valuable discussion on 3D printing mechanism and variable parts available in the 3D printing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the participants present here. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, regarding participants, the next session will be by 11:45 a.m. and hope all you be. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.